Hello. Still garnering ideas for Roaring Spring from Switzerland. And I didn't mention, I talked about in the most recent video about the trains from Osterberg. You can go all over the place with the Swiss Pass. Well, you can also use the bus system, postal buses, they're called. They're united. Switzerland really has its act together about transportation, even foot travel, because there are these signs. There are what do they call them? Wanderwege, waterways, where you can walk from place to place along trails. Uh, Nice signs. You've seen some of them if you look at these clips, all over the country. And the postal buses, they deliver the mail, post, but they also take passengers, and they have a regular, uh, predictable routine, matches up with the trains. So between the trains and the postal buses, without any car, you can get to every little remote village that you want through Switzerland. All right, I want to go on to Lausanne. I've got two more stops, and then I'm going to end this research trip to the Alps for the sake of Roaring Spring. Lausanne is a city. It's a fairly big city. It's got a cathedral in it. And at first I thought, who would really care about going to Lausanne? What does it have? Well, I was first drawn. It's at the inlet, at the eastern end of Lake Geneva, which is also called Lac Léman, I think. Uh, anyway, uh, I was first drawn to it because I was reading a book by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I think he wrote The Great Gatsby, famous American author. Fitzgerald. I think that's where John Fitzgerald Kennedy got his middle name. I think after that author. I'm not sure, but and the book was called Tender is the Night. I didn't like it all that much. But it was. I don't know. I was reading it, and in it there was a scene. It takes place largely in Europe. That was a time in the 1920s, I'd say 20s, maybe 30s, when Americans were living abroad, expatriates they called them. The thing to do was to live in Europe. Uh, and in one of the scenes, most of it takes place at the Riviera, the French Riviera, I think. It was in Lausanne. And it described how a guy walked up in the city to a place where there was a church. I think it said it was evening, and looked all over the lake at the view of Lake Geneva and the Alps across. Well, I was in Lausanne anyway, and I thought, well, why don't I see if I can find where that was? I imagined it was way up on a mountain somehow, because he said there was a tram in the book. Well, I found it. I walked to it. I didn't need to use a tram, and it's a cathedral. And it was dawn, that's what I usually do. It was early, and sure enough, there was this view of the lake. It was great, from this church's site. It was, and especially of the Alps beyond. I'm not sure if you could quite see Mont Blanc, but it was over there. Well, what's that have to do with Roaring Spring? There is something. In Roaring Spring, there is a little building. Well, it's a little white building that was the Mennonite church. And the Mennonites bought it from the Methodists about 1898 or something like that. And it's just a plain white, almost square church. It was sold by the Mennonites only 3 years ago, 2023, I think. But that church is set in a spot, not in the center of Roaring Spring at all, but up on a hillside with this incredible view of Halter Creek Valley, the site of the paper mill, where it was. This beautiful site with the mountains across it. I mean, it's one of the prime scenic views of all Roaring Spring, and it was the site of a church. Just about every time I go to Roaring Spring and I have a little bit of time, I go up there and look at that. And I just see a similarity to what Geneva or Lausanne had to offer. Right near there, there is a place designated, I think, to be a park at some time because some homes had to be taken by eminent domain because of road widening down below. Well, anyway, that's the connection I make, and I think that view, probably many Roaring Springers, well, and people that would just be driving by Roaring Spring, they would have no idea that that view is there. Just like up on the cemetery, most of them probably don't go up to Green Lawn Cemetery and see the view there. All right, that's one thing. But the other thing that Lausanne offers me is it's the site of the sixth biggest, most populous university in Switzerland. But it's different from the other ones because it's a polytechnical school. Lausanne Polytechnic. The name is in French. Polytechnic. Well, actually, the man who introduced my wife and I to the business of Switzerland, Pierre Arnaud, I connected with him online at first. He graduated from that Polytechnic school as an engineer in robotic things. He's a brilliant man. But it was Polytechnic. And I think Roaring Spring has a future. I've said often it should be a college campus down there around the Spring Dam. It just looks like it's a college campus, and that's what it could be. Well, I think it should be, I still feel that way, but I think it should be a polytechnical school. Poly means many. Technic has to do with technique, engineering, building, design, stuff like that. Not so much the philosophy and stuff like a liberal arts school. And I'll say much more about that later. But what had been the blank book factory, among other things, that would be a great site for a polytechnic that teaches all kinds of technology, not just high tech. All right, bye for now.